Hi, I'm Carl Azus. An impeachment trial is moving forward in the United States government, and an objective explanation of that is what's first today on CNN 10. On Wednesday, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to appoint impeachment managers and send its articles of impeachment to the U.S. Senate. Here's what that means. The managers are 7 House Democrats who are expected to argue their case in front of the Senate. And after that, the lawyers of U.S. President Donald Trump will present their defense. The articles of impeachment are what they'll be debating. There are 2 formal charges from the House: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Democrats say President Trump abused his power by pressuring Ukraine to investigate the son of political rival Joe Biden, a former U.S. vice president who's running for the presidency this year. Democrats say President Trump obstructed Congress by not fully cooperating with the House impeachment investigation. Republicans say that investigation was unfair and biased against the president, and President Trump has called it a sham, a hoax, and a witch hunt. The formal House vote to charge the president was held on December 18th, and there was a deep partisan divide over it. Everyone who voted to impeach the Republican president is a Democrat. Almost everyone who voted against impeaching the president is a Republican, though 3 Democrats joined Republicans in voting against one or both impeachment articles. The House is controlled by Democrats, the Senate is controlled by Republicans, and political analysts expect the Senate to find the president not guilty, allowing him to remain in office. First, though, the Senate has to hold its trial, and the Senate Majority Leader says that'll likely pick up steam on January 21st.
Article 1 is adopted.
In our nation's history, there have been only 2 impeachment trials of a sitting president, but no president has ever been convicted and removed from office. In 1868, President Andrew Johnson was tried in the Senate on articles of impeachment relating to his firing of War Secretary Edwin Stanton. The Senate acquitted Johnson, found him not guilty, falling just a single vote shy of the required 2/3 majority to convict and remove him.
Hear ye, hear ye.
Over a century later, in 1999, the Senate tried President Bill Clinton on articles of impeachment for perjury and obstruction of justice. The Senate acquitted Clinton on both counts.
So how does this work? The U.S. Constitution lays out the impeachment process.
The House of Representatives holds hearings to decide whether or not to impeach.
If a simple majority of the House votes to impeach, the case goes to the Senate for a full impeachment trial. While we call these Senate proceedings trials, they actually are very different from the typical criminal trial in 5 key ways. First, the jury. In a Senate impeachment trial, all 100 U.S. senators serve as jurors, and unlike a criminal case, they don't need a unanimous decision. A supermajority of at least 2/3 is required to remove a president from office.
William Jefferson Clinton, President of the United States, now pending.
Senators must take an oath to be impartial, but there is no way to enforce that. While in a criminal trial, any impartial juror can be removed.
Second, the burden of proof. In a criminal trial, the prosecutor must prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the highest burden of proof known to our legal system. But in a Senate impeachment trial, there is no such requirement. It's up to each individual senator to determine how much evidence is enough to convict.
Third, the rules. In a criminal trial, there are detailed rules about certain kinds of secondhand information that aren't allowed. And trials follow a procedure from opening statements to questioning witnesses and closing arguments. But in the Senate, it will be up to the senators to decide on those procedures. And there's no prosecutor. House managers, usually members of the House of Representatives, are appointed by the House and serve the role of the prosecutor.
We need witnesses, ladies and gentlemen.
Fourth, the judge. The Constitution requires that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court preside over a Senate impeachment trial of the president. In the current Supreme Court, that would mean Chief Justice John Roberts would preside.
Fifth, the punishment. Usually, a defendant in a criminal case faces imprisonment. But if convicted, the punishment a president faces is removal from office and being banned from ever holding office again.
With only 2 models in U.S. history of how a Senate impeachment trial might unfold, there's a lot we don't know about what could happen. But one thing's for certain, it will not look like a typical criminal trial.
Next today, the entire government of Russia has resigned. But it wasn't out of protest. It was apparently done to make it easier for Russian President Vladimir Putin to make major changes to his country's constitution. It says Russia's president cannot serve more than 2 terms in a row. Putin did that starting in the year 2000 and ending in 2008. Then he was appointed Russia's prime minister for 4 years, and his election back to the presidency in 2012 led to 2 more terms in office as Russia's leader. His current term ends in 2024, and what he's proposed doing is shifting some of the government's power from the president to parliament and the prime minister. Critics say that President Putin might be positioning himself to be prime minister again when his term as president ends, and that he wants to make sure that he holds on to power when that happens. Other observers say the president wants to give the government a fresh makeover in the years ahead to help its economy while still retaining some power for himself. 10-second trivia. Which of these U.S. universities was founded in 1789, making it the oldest on this list? University of North Carolina, Purdue University, Texas A&M, or the Citadel? All of these schools were founded in the 1800s except for UNC. And some of those very schools are taking on a new challenge when it comes to getting students ready for job interviews. In addition to a great cover letter, the appropriate outfit, and knowing something about the company you're applying to, applicants may need to be ready to face a computer. Some businesses are using artificial intelligence to whittle down a field of job applicants. They're given a series of questions to answer over their laptop or smartphone. Then, it's not a recruiter, it's an algorithm that analyzes their facial expressions, their grammar, their tone of voice, and AI then concludes whether a human is enthusiastic, determined, or good at teamwork. This is a new technology, it's not really a proven one. And while it might save companies time when interviewing a large number of applicants for, say, an entry-level position, there are some concerns that computers can't assess people, their drive, or their potential like another person can. And critics say these shortcomings can be applied to the other ways in which some businesses are turning to artificial intelligence, even if it makes sense for them financially.
Artificial intelligence is reshaping nearly every way in which we work. Some aspects of business, like human resources, marketing, and customer service, are already in these early transformative stages. But the drones and driverless cars that will revolutionize supply chains and business models still belong to a relatively distant future. Despite AI's potential, only 12% of organizations used it last year in some way, according to an Adobe survey of 13,000 professionals. But an additional 30% planned on employing it within 12 months. Embracing emergent technology is not without risk, but those who take the chance now have the most to gain. Early adopters could potentially double their cash flow by 2030. That's because experimenting today might allow companies to create new products, find better business models, and help control the broader conversation. On the flip side, that same report predicts that companies that wait may see a 20% cash flow decline. If AI fundamentally reshapes how we work, it has the power to do so for better or worse.
If you've ever felt like you've been running on a treadmill like forever, this guy knows what you're talking about. His name is Mario Mendoza, and he recently set a new treadmill world record. He ran 31 miles in almost 3 hours, and he was flying. His average pace was 6 minutes per mile. Mendoza earned his record at Madras High School in Madras, Oregon. He wanted to promote fitness and inspire students. Now that's the way to break a leg. He must have had a one-track or single-track mind to keep up that pace while staying in place, milking that record like a pronator. And while the finish line looked just like the starting line, he took it all in stride, because if the shoe fits, you just gotta run with it, y'all. I'm Carl Azus. We're not in Kansas, but Trail Ridge Middle School is in the city of Shawnee. Big shout out to our viewers there. For tomorrow's school, we'll be looking through comments on today's show at youtube.com/CNN.